That's right. The Oscars live from the stained carpet. Myself, Adnan Virk, David Samson, and Ben Lyons, my old buddy. We covered the Oscars twice together. We were working for the Academy, Ben. This time we're working for Meadowlark Media. How far we've come. But this is going to be awesome. The three of us just yapping away, talking about the Oscars, why we love it so much, and having, of course, all the great guests from the Shipping Container and from Meadowlark Media. David, I'll start with you. Why do the Oscars still matter? For all the naysayers, the skeptics out there who laugh at people like you and me and Ben, why does it still matter?
Because movies still matter. The magic of movies, it still exists. How far we've come from reviewing a movie every week when I was president of the Marlins on Dan's land radio show in Miami, and then to Nothing Personal, where I review a movie every day. I haven't missed an Oscar telecast, wait for it, since 1986. Straight through, including when I've been traveling and they've started at 2 a.m. local time. I will still watch it no matter what country I'm in. And the reason why it matters to me is that movies are the life that I want. They're the life that I thought it can be. There's when you see love on the screen, or you see passion, or you learn a story that you didn't know, it's what I think is real, what I want to be real. That's why I take movies and then the Oscars so seriously.
Platoon winning Best Picture way back in 1986. That was a great year for Oliver Stone. Ben, of course, you used to work for E! News. Of course, you've covered the Oscars many a time on the red carpet. This is going to be a unique way, though. You're going to be producing me and David and also chiming in here and there. Why the Oscars still matter to a guy like you?
Well, like David, I grew up loving the Academy Awards and have had the privilege, as you mentioned, professionally, to be able to cover it from every angle. I've been backstage. I've been across the street on a rooftop. I've been with you in the depths of the Kodak Theater, where the winners would come in the backstage room, and you could see how excited and overwhelmed they are from that moment. But this will be a first time covering the Oscars in Miami. So definitely looking forward to putting on the tuxedo. I might have a linen tux in the collection. I know It gets a little balmy down there. But the Oscars matter because this is how you can get a large audience around the world to care about films that don't have, Tyrese going to space. I mean, God bless the Fast and Furious franchise, but now that he's gone to space, I don't know how much more left in the story there is in that saga. So this is how a film about a history professor at a boarding school in the 1970s and about his relationship with one of his students that will deeply move you, the holdovers. This is how it gets people talking about it and people excited about it and want to give it a chance. And when you open yourself up to film, as David said, you open it up to a life bigger than the one you live, and to hope, and to parts of your heart you don't even know exists. So I think the Oscars celebrates all facets of cinema. They've done a wonderful job of the Academy the last few years, making some serious changes where now you have a really nice mix of films represented from international cinema, from period pieces to modern stories. I think they've done a nice job of staying relevant while also honoring the nostalgia and the timelessness of Oscar night that we all love.
And I think we can all agree this was a massive year for movies, because you have blockbusters like Barbie and obviously Oppenheimer, which is going to be an absolute juggernaut on Oscar night. We're going to give our predictions, of course, on the actual Oscars telecast, and we'll be keeping track throughout the night for bragging rights. But that could win 8 Academy Awards, which would be the most in Slumdog Millionaire. It's going to be a great night for Christopher Nolan. He's probably going to finally win his first Best Director award. But I think for me, fellas, it's not only celebrating film, celebrating what cinema can do for all of us, generating empathy for those types of characters that you mentioned, like in The Holdovers, but I think it's really about the speeches. It's about the pageantry. It's about those great moments, and those moments, just like the movies, those speeches can inspire us and make us think what we would do with our own Oscar speeches. So speaking of, David, the guy that, of course, we're rooting for hard is Paul Giamatti. I know Ben loved The Holdovers as well. Listen, I'm concerned whether or not he's going to win, because Cillian Murphy, of course, just won the SAG Award, the Screen Actors Guild Award. There is precedent, by the way. Chadwick Boseman won the SAG Award. Then Anthony Hopkins won the Academy Award for The Father. So it's not like it always lines up correctly, but generally, the actors branch is the largest part of the Academy, and generally, if you win the SAG, you do win the Academy Award. Having said that, you and me know Giamatti's got a better than a puncher's chance of winning. If it's not Cillian Murphy, it is going to be PG. Let's talk about our boy Giamatti.
You just blew over one of the most iconic moments in Oscar history. The year that Anthony Hopkins won for The Father, they changed the order to have Best Actor announced as the last award of the night, when it's always Best Picture, because Chadwick Boseman had passed away tragically. and he was expected to win a posthumous Oscar first since Heath Ledger, I assume.
Yeah.
So they go to the announcement of Best Actor. Everyone's ready, and the winner and the the Oscar goes to Anthony Hopkins. The room goes silent. And it was such an interesting moment because this is not about buying your way to an award. It's not about payola. This is really when the branches of the Academy are giving the greatest award that changes careers and hopefully gets people to watch movies. If one more person watched Anthony Hopkins in that movie because he won, that's a success because that was great. But you blew over that.
And as
what
you know,
was.
Hopkins wasn't there. He was fast asleep in Wales, woke up the next morning. Hey, thanks for my second Oscar. That was great.
So one of the things that I would tell you that I'm excited about for Best Actor is there have been years recently where there have not been really tight races, where it would be hard in your Oscar pool to get any of the big categories wrong. This year, I believe that Best Supporting Actress is a done deal. Yeah. Whether or not it's going to happen, we'll wait to see, but I do believe it is. But Best Actress, Best Actor are both completely up in the air. You've got Cillian Jacobs going against Paul Giamatti.
Murphy, yeah.
Cillian, do you know who that is? We
No,
can't edit
middle reliever from the 90s.
Yeah, somebody you drafted way back in the day.
No, it's the actress from She Was in Love, one of my favorite TV shows with Judd Apatow. Thank you.
I love Apatow. Nice.
Cillian Murphy going against Paul Giamatti. And then you've got Emma Stone against Lily Gladstone. And the question is, which way will the Academy go? I can't wait to hear which way you guys are going because I do not think that we will be in agreement on these categories.
Yeah, and it's
don't count out Annette Bening too. Don't count out Annette Bening, sports cinema, and really a culmination of a great Hollywood career. Oftentimes, the Oscars do feel like they're on back order, and sometimes people win for historically what might be deemed the wrong role or the wrong performance.
The Revenant.
Yeah. Although, come on, the first 10 minutes of that movie when Leo's swallowing bullets, it just lets you know the guy got inside of a bear. I mean,
you fight a bear, you win an Oscar. That's the way the Academy votes. Yeah.
It used to be you have to play a special if you play a special needs person, like Dustin Hoffman. Remember they made fun of that in Tropic Thunder. I don't think that Annette Bening has a chance, and I love Annette Bening. I've loved her since Bugsy. Wow. I've loved her in everything. I do not believe that she has absolutely any chance of winning the Oscar.
But back to Giamatti, I was with you, Adnan, at the critics. We thought, okay, maybe he's got some momentum here. And then when you win at the SAG Awards for, you often go on to winning at Oscar, but when you win playing a real life person, you think Forrest Whitaker is Idi Amin, Charlize and Monster, Jamie Foxx and Ray. I mean, the list goes on. You go on to win at the Academy Awards. That's kind of a tried and true formula for me. So I think that one might be all but done.
Yeah, it's checking all the boxes. He won the BAFTA, of course, as well, the British Academy Awards. And because of the film, everyone had seen Oppenheimer. And as I said, it's going to be this tidal wave of momentum, potentially winning 8 Oscars. That's obviously going to help Cillian Murphy, who was so immersive in the movie. I did want to touch on supporting actress, Ben, because I'm with David. It feels like it's a juggernaut, Da'Vine Joy Randolph. But you can tell the story when your dad, Jeffrey Lyons, the famed film critic, he was the one guy that got it right. Marissa Tomei, my cousin Vinny.
The one guy. And years later, I would interview her for The Wrestler. She's always like, please tell your father thank you. He was the only person who was crazy enough to think I would win. And she did. And the supporting categories have long had a history of upsets or surprising winners. You think of Jack Palance doing push-ups on that Oscar stage. You think of Show Me the Money, Cuba Gooding Jr., Rod Tidwell. You think about the year that obviously Jennifer Hudson was the first time. That was kind of a coronation, but everybody thought Eddie Murphy was going to win. And he famously walked out of the theater. Alan Arkin won that year for Little Miss Sunshine. Mark Rylance was a surprise. So you have kind of curveballs in the supporting categories. I don't think Jodie Foster will upset Da'Vine Joy Randolph. I don't think that America Ferrera will win for Barbie. Although I'm happy she's nominated. It's definitely a year where it feels like the supporting categories are more of a lock than, as David mentioned, the leads.
Yeah, I think that's an important point, that you can't have all 4 categories up in the air. And I think this year the supporting actor, and I actually don't think that Robert Downey Jr. deserves the Oscar in the supporting category at all. too many strong performances, I would take De Niro, and I can't believe I'm saying this, Adnan.
Yes.
I would take De Niro.
You're on with Adnan. You know how to play the hits.
This is why it's a problem, though. The true winner for me would be Mark Ruffalo for Poor Things, who is absolutely outstanding. But I think you will have Locked and Loaded in supporting, and then actor and actress is where you could get the surprise.
I'm also a huge Ruffalo fan. I like the fact that Ben mentioned Mark Rylance, because that year Ruffalo was up for Spotlight. And I remember when they said and I go, oh my God, Ruffalo, Mark Rylance, what? Bridge of Spies out of nowhere. And it definitely was a memorable moment. And Rylance is great in Bridge of Spies. He's the best part of that movie. But I did wish Ruffalo had won before. And Poor Things is obviously fantastic. Best actress, like David said, Ben, I'm with him. Lily Gladstone, I thought, had some momentum. They both win the Golden Globes. Would be a historic winner, obviously, first ever Native actress nominated for an Academy Award. But Emma Stone wins a Critics' Choice where we were. She wins the BAFTA. Lily wasn't even nominated for a BAFTA. But then Lily wins the SAG. So I'm with David, Ben. I think this is a real toss-up with Lily Gladstone and Emma Stone.
And then early in the season, everybody was like, yeah, Bradley Cooper is amazing in Maestro, but Carey Mulligan's going to win the Oscar. So, right, I feel like there was some early momentum for her. She seems to have fallen out of the race. I would love to see Emma Stone win for Poor Things. You know how much I love her in that film and that performance and where she's at in her career. Really just making amazing choices. She's year in and year out. I think it's her 7th nomination or something ridiculous for an actress. And I think she's wonderful in Poor Things. But I'm with you. I think Lily Gladstone wins the Academy Awards, the recognition that Killers of the Flower Moon deserves, because I think it's going to get overlooked in some of the other categories in which it was nominated. Leo was overlooked, of course, for lead actor. I don't know if this comes in. This is your world, David, where if the platform and the distribution behind the movie maybe impacted its Oscar chances. I know it's nominated a bunch for a couple technical categories and creative categories, but coming out as an Apple release, you think it plays any role in how people view Killers of the Flower Moon?
So it used to, and some people will argue maybe that's what happened with The Irishman when it was a Netflix release. But I don't believe that's the case anymore. I think that you're seeing absolute equivalency where now, whether it's released to Apple, whether it's a big studio release, I don't think people actually discern anymore. It used to be, do you remember when something would go straight to video? That's because it couldn't get a distributor. They couldn't find a screen. It was the worst thing you could ever say is this went straight to video. But now that is the best thing you can say. So we'll wait to see. It's going to be a hell of a time live from the stained carpet. And I'm so happy to be doing it with both of you.
It's going to be a blast, man. Honestly, make sure you check out me, David, and Ben. And it's going to be an awesome time. And honestly, you mentioned Naiad and that betting. Maybe we'll get Dan Le Batard to be the Diane Naiad of our production. Maybe we'll put him in the pool and see if he can swim to Cuba. We'll give it a shot. Live from the stained carpet. We'll see you then.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into the MMA Hangout. That right there is MMA Junkies Danny Segura, who is boots on the ground in Mexico, in Mexico City. Danny, what's up? First of all, what's up, bro? Second of all, how are the fights? How's Mexico City? How's life treating you? You're going to be there for like another 5 weeks, I heard.
Yeah, almost. No, just a week. You know, I can't get enough of the city. The city's dope. It's awesome. There's so much to do. I'm already probably 100 tacos in.
Nice.
A fair bit of mezcal and a good amount of fights as well. A good amount of chingazos. So life is great, man. Can't complain. The card was pretty good and got one more week in this beautiful city. So everything's good.
How is the vibe in the arena? Because obviously this is a very big place that just opened the UFC PI in Mexico City. Like, this is a very big hotbed for fighting, and it feels like the MMA is overrun now with Hispanic fighters, with Mexican fighters. Like, this is a big deal for Mexico. So how is the energy inside the arena?
Yeah, it was crazy. I mean, I took out video. You can check it out on my Twitter, cheap plug at Danny Segura TV. Literally second fight in the prelims. And you've been to these events, bro. The prelims, people are just starting to get there. You get the hardcores, and then by the time the main card starts, that's when the arena is really full. This wasn't the case. You were 2 fights in, and the arena was pretty much packed. It was 20,000 people there, and it was crazy. It was crazy. From the very beginning, people were super hyped. We're yelling. We're going crazy because there was so much young Mexican talent from the very start that is popular here in Mexico that everybody got there early to witness it. So, man, one of the best crowd energies that I've seen in a while.
That's crazy because you've been to a lot of great fights as you know, I have too. And it's like, you think of how big some of these fights are. And when you look across the card, it was a fight night, you know, not a numbered pay-per-view card. There was a couple good fights on it, a couple fights that were okay. One that we thought could have been decent between the fight that got canceled. Man, I'm blanking on the fight. Coño.
The Raul Rosas and
Rosas and yes, that one. That was going to be kind of an exciting fight. Rosas is an up and comer, somebody that you kind of want to see fight. And dude, just the energy was insane. So we're going to let you know everything you need to know from the important things that happen at this fight night. We start in a place that kind of makes me a little sad, and I'm going to tell you why.
Okay.
We started the main event, Brandon Moreno versus Brandon Royval, and it feels to me, Danny, and I know this is your boy.
I felt that one too.
It feels to me like the window's closing on Brandon Moreno. Tell me why that's not the case.
I'm not ready to say that. I will acknowledge to you and to the listeners that Brandon Moreno did look different. Brandon Moreno did not look the same Brandon Moreno that we are used to. This was a fighter that usually moves forward, that puts on the pressure, puts on the pain, the damage, tons of volume. I mean, just typical Mexican fighter. This time around, backing up a ton. Almost every round he was backing up, very low output, and just kind of seemed like he lacked a little bit of life in there. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt because I think there were so many factors in play. Remember, he was originally supposed to fight Amir Albasi for this card, which is a completely different opponent than Brandon Royval. Also, you know, he was the biggest name in this card. He was carrying the promotion, lots of media, lots of interviews. Historically, he hasn't done well in Mexico. He's never won in Mexico in the UFC, like in Mexico City. He's got one tie and one loss. Now, one tie, two defeats. What else? Yeah, I guess I can just make a million excuses for Moreno. I acknowledge he did look different, but I would like to believe that this was sort of a flash in the pan, that this was sort of the exception. So we'll see in his next fight. That's going to be the big one, the big telling one.
When you talk about him always pushing on the gas and like being the guy that goes out and attacks and is aggressive, when you look down at the stats, if you didn't watch the fight, you know who won by just looking at the stats. I mean, Royval, 556 total strikes.
Yeah.
Moreno had 219. Like, how can you win? And it wasn't like he had a ton of ground control. He had, 3 takedowns, I think? But he had, 12 seconds of total ground control, like something crazy.
Right.
It was nothing.
Royval's super hard to hold down, but I will say also this, and it sounds like I'm making excuses in behalf of Moreno, but look, credit to Royval. I judged the fight for Royval, and I watched it twice, both live and then after the fact on replay. And I scored it 48-47 Royval, him picking up the last 3 rounds and Moreno the first 2. But there's something weird happened in the 5th. I don't know if you saw Herb Dean. Literally, Moreno would clinch him. 2 seconds later, he would split them up. That doesn't work.
Doesn't happen.
That's not the way it's supposed to happen. And Moreno was, kneeing him to the leg, stomping him on the foot, trying to take the back. Like, he was working. He wasn't stalling. I do wonder if those 2-3 clinch, I think it was like 3 or 4 actually, those clinches that Moreno had on Royval, if they would have let them continued, I wonder if that 5th round would have been scored differently. But again, at the end of the day, the right person won in terms of Brandon Royval. He had the better performance, but I did think Moreno got a little bit screwed by the ref there at the end.
Sure, but I think it was just a body of work thing, right? Like the first 2 rounds, I agree with you. Like, we saw a little bit, okay, here it is. Like, Brandon's starting to press it. And then those last 3 rounds, it was like, where is he? Where'd he go?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like, it's tough because obviously the Pantoja fight went the way that it did. Now this fight, you're kind of back to back where you're trying to find that Moreno of old. And it's like, what's it going to be? Who's the opponent need to be for him to get back to that gold that we usually see from him? I'm worried. That's why I said, I don't know if the window's closing, but it feels like things are happening and there's other fighters in that flyweight division that now kind of have his number and are now kind of moving forward.
Yeah, he's just 30 years old, so like technically he is in his athletic prime. But the thing about Brandon Moreno, for those that don't know and haven't followed his career, the dude just has been in so many wars for the last 2 or 3 years. Literally, he had the fight of the year in 2023. Solid candidate for 2022. I mean, you just go down the list. The last few years, all his championship fights have been held. So you just wonder if the damage is starting to catch up to him. I don't know. I guess we'll find out in the next one.
Did you see this last? So obviously the fight went to split decision. We're going to pull up here and watch Brandon Royval. He doesn't realize that his name is also Brandon, and he thinks he's losing the fight by split decision. Watch this.
Ladies and gentlemen, After 5 rounds, we go to the judges' scorecards for a decision. Mike Bell scores it 48-47, Royval. Junichiro Camacho scores the contest 49-46, Moreno. And Chris Lee scores it 48-47 for the winner by split decision, Brandon
But it took me a good 3 seconds to realize that he had one with his hand raised too.
So for those of you listening on audio, Bruce Buffer calls Brandon, right? They're both named Brandon. One's Brandon Royval, one's Brandon Moreno. And Brandon Royval gets his hand raised. He's throwing his hand up like, I can't believe I lost this by split decision. It takes him 2 seconds to realize, oh, no, they called my name. I'm the winner. What a crazy. It's just, you can't make things like this. That's
literally my reaction time in the mornings before my cafecito. It's literally like 2 or 3 seconds before I realize things are happening.
Won. Let's go.
Yeah, it's so funny.
So that was the main event. The co-main event of the fight night in Mexico City was the return of T-City. Brian Ortega against Yair Rodriguez, who we last saw against Volkanovski, right? At UFC 290. That's the last time we saw Yair Rodriguez fight. And before that, he was looking excellent. Obviously ran into Volkanovski. We know the deal there. But it's been a while since he's fought. So we were very anticipatory on how is Yair going to look with this much layoff. We know he's a dynamic fighter. How's this going to go? And within we don't even get to the starting bell before something like this happens. And we're going to have Brian Ortega talk about it.
I looked up at my coach and he's like, don't you dare let it get to you. He goes, it doesn't matter. And I was like, yes, coach. Yes, coach. We're good. And then, but I'm not going to lie.
I hate watching the video.
The whole world saw.
The whole world
Someone
saw
that
him.
plays soccer and has this regularly happen to them. I can't watch that video. It's tough to watch.
The whole world. Can you put it back up and then put it on mute so we can just talk through it? The whole world saw him twist his ankle while Bruce Buffer is calling him out, pointing into his blue corner. Ortega jumps, lands on his ankle, twists it 35 seconds before the fight. That is his comeback fight after 19 months out of the octagon with a torn shoulder. He comes back, and that's the first thing that happened. Did you see it live, Danny?
So I didn't, but then I saw the tweets because, in the media room, I'm like editing, I'm doing a bunch of stuff. I'm zoning in and out. But then I saw it on Twitter and I'm like, oh. And then it obviously explained a lot of the first round where he was just like really scared to move around and clearly his ankle was compromised. I mean, Ortega has some of the worst luck. And even then he was able to survive a tornado that Yair Rodriguez is the first round. And then on the second and third, he won the second and submitted in the third. So props to Ortega for overcoming adversity. Truly remarkable.
He's a warrior, dude. And obviously, for those of you that don't know, he fought Yair Rodriguez, 21? Towards the end of 21? 22?
July 22.
Yeah. So he goes up for what I think was a clinch, or he was trying to get out of a clinch or something.
No, he put in an arm bar and his shoulder just completely gave out. And then he already had a shoulder surgery on that same shoulder. So he had to do a shoulder surgery on that one. And then throughout the process of getting good again, he injured the other shoulder and had to get another surgery. So he had 2 surgeries and was out for 19 months. And then, this happens.
And then 30 seconds into the announcements, he gets the ankle. But in that first round, he got popped, and it was like, oh, wait a second, this is not good. He regains kind of his composure, goes after him, holds him down, like gets out of that first round, gets kind of a pretty nasty bruise on his eye, and you're like, it's been almost 2 years since he's fought. You know what I mean? Like, this is kind of what we expect from somebody who's had that long of a layoff. And then all of a sudden, that second round, he has ground control. He's throwing those elbows. All of a sudden, Rodriguez gets that cut underneath his eye. And you're like, that thing is deep. That's going to start gushing, and it's gushing blood. And then all of a sudden, I want to play the video for you. I think it's Henry Gracie who's in his corner, right? Put up this video of Brian Ortega practicing that triangle arm choke in the back room. Listen to this.
You guys are not gonna believe what happened. This is the final minute of preparation for Brian's fight. We're in the locker room. He takes down his training partner, Sparks. Look at this, lands in full mount, climbs the tree, hugs the neck, redirects the arm, and sets up the exact same arm triangle finish that he uses in the fight just minutes later. Look at that, same dismount, tees off to the side, puts on his snake squeeze, and that's a wrap, you guys. Literally, the only thing we did after this is remind Brian about the lion and the gazelle before Paul led a short prayer and we walked out.
I mean, how cool is that when you get to see somebody practicing mere minutes before they go out into the octagon, then use what they did in practice? And obviously, there's a reason they call him T-City, right?
Mhm.
Use what he did in practice and actually do it in the octagon for a massive win in his division. Like that, it gives me goosebumps just watching stuff like that.
Yeah, that's high level MMA right there for you. Like, it's a lot of people think that this sport involves a good amount of luck, and to a certain degree it does, but a lot of people just think like it's just a bunch of chaos and then whatever happens, happens. But clearly, as shown in that video, like the dude thought that was a possibility and he hit it.
And what's next for Yair?
Man, this was such a bad night for Mexico because you had two of the biggest stars losing in the main and co-main. And then that co-main was huge because there was a ton of bad blood between Jair Rodriguez and Ilia Topuria, who is the new champion at 145. That would have been Spain versus Mexico. It was getting heated. The styles are perfect. And then Brian Ortega goes in there and spoils the party. I think Rodriguez can still get back there in terms of title contention, but it's certainly the path got a lot longer. I think he's going to win at least two more before we start talking about him fighting for a title again. So I don't know, maybe take on a Calvin Kattar or really anybody in the top 10. Edson Barboza, I think any of those fights would be great.
A lot of good stuff coming up. UFC 299 in Miami. We'll both be in the building for that one. That's what, March 9th. Saturday, March 9th, a couple weeks away. Next week, we'll have a preview, previewing some of the cool stuff, a massive stacked card. We may have to go long on that one, by the way, Danny, for our MMA people. Like
100%.
That card is stacked. And I'm super excited to see Robeli de España, Cuban guy, the monster, dude, the beast. Like I'm jacked.
He's like 6'8", Taekwondo guy, can head kick you at 6'8". Like
he's incredible.
Pounds. Just like the most ridiculous Cuban you'll ever see in your life.
Yes. Think about Yoel Romero, like 5 feet taller. He's awesome. So we're gonna have a 299 breakdown and preview and all that good stuff coming up next week. But keep it locked right here on the MMA Hangout. We love you guys. We appreciate you guys. We'll talk to you guys next week. Peace.